Okay, it's still pitch dark. You won't be able to see, but there's a big bull, like literally 25 yards away. And I can barely see him because it's still so dark. All right, welcome back to the channel. So yeah, it's a big one today for me. This is one of the ones I look forward to doing every year, but this is going to be all of my footage from the Elk Rut shot over the past 3-ish days up in Rocky Mountain National Park. I was on the west side by Grand Lake, the Grand Lake entrance, which is my preferred side. A couple reasons for that though. My parents have a cabin in Granby, so I've got a place to stay right there. So of course that's a pretty big swayer on why I like that side. But also I tend to find that the west side maybe is a little bit less packed and chaotic. Although, I mean, during the rut, like the whole park is packed and chaotic, but I think the west side is maybe a little bit less. So, yeah. So, anyways, that's where I was. So, all this footage is from the west side of the park, so the Grand Lake side. And yeah, basically what I did is every morning I would try to get in there super early, like right at sunrise when the elk are most active, and I would just shoot as much stuff as I could until the sun got too high and the light got too harsh, and then I would leave. And then I would come back later in the afternoon, and right around sunset, the elk get active again. And so I would shoot as much as I could until it got too dark. And then even when it was too dark, I stayed and tried to get more stuff because I didn't want to leave. But so yeah, that's what I did all 3 of those days, and I think I got some pretty good stuff. Last year I just was super rushed, and I only had like a day or so, and I didn't get anywhere near like what I wanted. So this year was definitely a makeup for last year. And yeah, I think overall it was pretty good. So yeah, this will be all the footage and the best photos. I can't wait to show you guys. I think there's some pretty good stuff in there. And then at the end of the video, if you stick around, I'm going to do a little thoughts portion or a little takeaway portion and kind of go over some of the stuff that I thought was pretty good. Like, got some good photos, and definitely always can look back on some of the bad stuff and be like, I wish I would have done this differently, you know, and I think that's important to always go over that kind of stuff, to improve, because there's always room for improvement. At least that's the way I look at it. So anyways, yeah, stick around for that part at the end and enjoy the footage. It's the rut. Let's go. We're definitely coming up on our first probably elk jam of the night. I'm not sure if they're on the right side or where they are. I'm guessing right side here. Yeah, there they are. Yeah, they're on the right side here. Jam number 2. There's a good bull out there, though. Yeah, I got some good shots. Good morning.
No, what are the red marks? Those aren't colors. That's what I was thinking was a color one. But
All the
that's
little
your-
red, that's my camera.
Okay. What's that one? Is there one?
Of course, it goes right behind the tree.
He says, "Come on, ladies, follow me over here."
We're going over the hill, out of the view of the photographers. Oh my goodness. How awesome was that? He's just walked up the hill. Got him? Trying to record some outro footage for the YouTube video. This would be cool. And that was the Elk Rut. And then fade to black.
Fade to black. Director Scott Hill.
All right, well, that was the Elk Rut this year and all the stuff that I got. I'm thrilled with it, and I sort of think about there's a couple of like bucket list shots that I want to get with the Elk Rut, and the first one, which you can see in the thumbnail, is the elk bugling and like all the steam coming out of its mouth, and getting it really nice like silhouette of that, and I wouldn't say that I captured that the way I wanted to, but to still get that was pretty cool. And that shot was at 600 millimeters with the 1.4 converter on in low light. So it wasn't the most ideal, and it's definitely not like a portfolio shot, I would say, but I've always wanted that shot of like the steam coming out of its mouth as it's like bugling. So that was really cool. And then I guess the other bucket shot obviously would be, two bulls fighting it out, which I didn't see, or I should say I didn't capture with my camera. But I guess that would bring me to the first sort of funny sort of thing that happened on this trip. So I went up Thursday night after work. I was down here in Denver. And I was working, and I was like, I'm going to cut out of here early. I'm going to just head straight over to the park and just get in there that night. And, of course, right as I was about to pack up, something came in for work that needed my attention. So my early out was delayed, and I ended up leaving about, normal hours. But I did get up there that night. But then the next morning, I was, like, super motivated. And I was like, I'm going to get up so early, and I'm going to get in there. I'm going to beat the traffic in. Like, I'm just going to get in there super early, and I was so, like, hyped up for it. So I woke up at, like, 5 in the morning and, like, literally brushed my teeth, threw clothes on, and I was in the car by, like, 5:15. And the park is about 20 minutes away from where our little cabin is in Granby, where I was staying. And so I got into the park at, like, I don't know, 5:30, 5:45, and it was still dark. It was still very dark. And I was like, well, the sun should be coming up like any minute here, right? Yeah. The sun did not come up until about 7, so I had about an hour 15 of me in the park sitting there. I could see elk with my eyes that were in this. I had pulled off to this little meadow where I saw a bunch of elk, and of course it was so dark my camera couldn't get anything. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll just chill. And I was listening because they were bugling, and like I was the only one there because it was so early. And just listening to them bugle, and I just had to get out of the car. They were probably about 50, 75 yards away from me, so I felt pretty safe with that. But I got out and was kind of just listening, and all of a sudden the bugling stopped. And I started hearing the sound of what sounded like antlers clashing, and I was like, I mean, it was loud, and I was just like, oh no, they're doing it, and I can't see it. I was like, oh no. So I'm pretty sure I heard 2 bucks sort of ramming and going at it, and but yeah, I could not capture it with my camera because I got to the park an hour before sunrise, and yeah, that was just stupid on my part. I just didn't really look up the time of sunrise. I was just like, I'm going in early. I don't care. So, that was the first sort of funny thing that happened. But overall though, I think the days that I went, it was pretty active. There was the Friday night where I was it was me, my dad, and my mom, and my dog, all in my car, and it was pretty dead Friday night. We were driving back and forth past all the sort of hot spots over there, and there just was not much going on. There were a lot of people there. There was this one meadow that had been really active, kind of right before you start going up Trail Ridge Road, where you start going up towards like the Alpine Center. And there was a bunch of people there. And so, of course, we stopped because we're like, well, they must be seeing something. and there was nothing there. But everyone was there waiting because that meadow had been like really active, like all so far for like the whole rut. And yeah, this one guy was like, "Yeah, just wait here. They're coming." And I don't want to wait. Like I'd much rather be nimble and kind of just going back. Like I don't mind driving back and forth and back and forth, but like I want to be on the move. I don't want to just throw like all my. I just don't want to sit. It's almost like storm chasing where when you get antsy like waiting for storms, you kind of start adjusting again, and when you should just sit there. But yeah, so we kind of kept moving back and forth, and then we did eventually find some elk that were up on the top of this hill, and it actually made for a really cool shot. It was by that point that we saw them, it was getting pretty dark, but that was that silhouetted shot I have of that bull that was up on top of the hill, sort of in the burned trees. That was kind of, he wasn't bugling, but he was kind of like looking up, and so I thought it made a cool shot. But that was what we did get Friday night. But that was a tough one because we were just going back and forth, and whether any elk ever did show up in that other meadow down by the campground, I'm not sure. But I didn't want to just sit there and like, I'm like, well, there could be other good stuff going on. So yeah, Friday night was kind of the only night that was a little bit down. We did talk to someone else who seemed to know what they were talking about. I don't know if they actually did or not, but they said like if you did go up like to the higher, like up into Alpine during the day, there was he said there was one vantage point he had where he kind of looked down into sort of the forest down there, and he said you could see just hundreds of elk. And he thought because the temperatures were a little bit higher so far this fall, that they were maybe rutting up higher, and that's why we weren't seeing them all down in like the usual meadows that you would normally see them. So I don't know if there's anything to that or not. Like I said, I feel like most of the nights and days that we were there, it was pretty active, but I certainly never saw like hundreds of elk just standing there like he said he saw. So I don't know. That could be a thing, but yeah, I'm not an expert, so I don't know on that. But yeah, overall though, I thought it was really good, and I was happy with all the shots that I got, and I think the video was pretty good. And it's tough because I'm either tripoding video or I've got it set up on my little like I've got like a little beanbag thing that sits over the window, so I can put my lens on there and usually be pretty steady. But it is tricky shooting in the low light. The video can get a little like I've been watching some of the clips back, and I'm like, that was really shaky. But it's like, well, of course it was because I'm at 600 millimeters, usually with a teleconverter on, and so any little just motion of your hand, or sometimes just even hitting the shutter, can like make the lens look shaky, even though it feels like you're shooting pretty steady. But yeah, I think overall I was pretty happy with it. So yeah, that's the Elk Rut. I mentioned in the intro that I kind of prefer the Grand Lake side over the Estes side. I do think the Estes side probably has more elk, but they go into the city and they're on like golf courses, and I don't know. It just feels a little weird to me over there. So I definitely prefer the Grand Lake side because it feels more, I don't know, wild, I guess. But yeah. So and again, like I said, having a place to stay in Granby, of course, definitely influences my decision on that too. But cool. So I guess I wanted to also do just a little thing here at the end about kind of what's coming up, because I just got done with this and I'm like, well, what's the next like thing? Because like I've been doing like sort of these not just one day like, hey, I went out to Cherry Creek and here's what I saw, like kind of stuff. I've been doing more like multi-day, sort of like more like what I would consider to be like projects. So like I did like the 3 rare bird challenge back in the summer, which was so much fun, and then the Alaska trip was of course like a full week of stuff, and then now the Elk Rut was 4 days worth of stuff. And I was just sort of thinking like, oh well, what's next? Like I don't have anything planned. So obviously the Bighorn Rut is in December, but that's still like a month and a half away. Actually like 2 months away. But I am gonna start. I think I'm going to do something pretty cool with that. I've got an idea on where I could go to just a bunch of different herds of bighorn and just, try to get as much footage from the rut as I can. And then there is a small chance that I may be going to California in November. And that would be to go try to see humpback whales there in the Central Coast. So I think that could be pretty cool. And I would also want to go see the California condors. So I might try to get that trip in before Thanksgiving at some point in November. So that could be cool. But again, definitely not sure on that yet. And then oddly enough, this weekend, I am back on the road. I am going to Orlando. Not for anything photography related at all. Although I thought about taking my camera and maybe like sneaking off for a day to go do some photography, but that's just not going to be in the cards. I am going with a bunch of friends to Universal Studios and Disney World and Epcot and all that stuff there to basically relax, drink, and eat food. And we're going to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. So I am going this Saturday, and of course there's a Hurricane Ian coming in, so I'm not going to Florida to chase the hurricane. I don't care about hurricanes at all when it comes to weather. They're very boring to me. It just coincides with potentially maybe impacting my trip, so we'll see what happens there. But I think by the time I go to Florida, the hurricane will probably be clear of Florida, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's what I've got coming up. Of course, there's going to be those just one-off trips where I just head out for a day and try to find something, or if something cool happens, I will always make a video about it. But anyways, yeah, so that's it. Thanks for watching the Elk Rut. It was, like I had said in my intro, last year's attempt at it was just really discombobulated and not put together well. So I'm definitely happy with how much better this year's went. So that is the good news, and yeah, I guess until the next time, the next video, I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.